So we're back with Lemania chronograph. I have adjusted the position of the hairspring a bit so that my impulse pin is in the center of the banking guards. That should give us a good beat error when we test the movement later on, at least something close to where we want it. Now I'm going to fit this new mainspring into the barrel. I decided to make two videos because the last one with the Sumo got quite long, so I'm doing a part 1 and part 2, and this is part 2. So what I can do here is place, well, I need to find a hook, which is here, the notch for the mainspring. And you see the direction this is going. This is spiraling this way, so it's going to engage here. Because this is already wound, I can simply push it in to the barrel. There we go, mainspring fitted. I'm going to give it a little bit of additional mainspring grease, a couple of dots on the top that will soak in as it goes in and out. I'm going to put a drop of oil on the lower barrel arbor hole, and we're now going to fit the barrel arbor. Make sure we put it in the right direction. Now in this movement, the ratchet and crown wheel is situated underneath the bridge, so we'll start by fitting the crown wheel in place. We now want to put the gear train in place. So now of course we want to fit the train bridge. We're not fitting the escape wheel yet, we'll do that separately later. And first of all we need to make sure that the chronograph driving wheel pinion comes through, and we hit the other wheels. We also have to make sure that the ratchet wheel engage with the click properly. quite fiddly, so I'm going to continue this under the microscope until I get everything where it should be. There we go, that's most of the gear train in place. I don't want to risk anything, especially as it's a customer's watch, so I wanted to do that under the microscope. Make sure every pivot is hitting its jewel hole without, especially when I'm going to tighten it. I'm now going to turn the movement around and fit the winding and setting mechanism. So when it comes to the setting mechanism, I'm going to fit as much, I'll fit a little bit of grease on all the sliding surfaces. That is the winding pinion I'm putting in now. Next part I'm putting in is the sliding pinion. Put the stem in place. It's time for the setting lever. So I'm going to hold that in place, take the movement out, get my setting lever screw. Like so. So I pull that setting lever spring into position and then I tighten it in place. Of sliding grease. It should now wind and set. Now we're going to fit the escape wheel. sure the wheel does not fold over it. I'm going to do this under the microscope. Okay, gear train in place. So now I'm going to fit the pallet on the pallet cock, or the pallet bridge, which it is in this circumstance. Come to the microscope again to make sure everything lines up. Now that looks good. So at this stage, we can actually wind the movement. See the click spring moving there? Just need the winding mechanism here. I can also test setting mechanism. It's pretty tight, borderline tight, but I'll leave that as it's going to loosen up over time. So now I'm going to oil the gear train. For that I'm going to use my little oil here. 90-10 in the escape wheel. Untitled 20 on the fourth wheel, and I think a 90-30 on the third wheel. Okay. Turn the movement around. Here you got a close up of an oil jewel. So the indentation towards the hole in the jewel is what I'm calling the cup, and I want that to be half full of oil. Now I'm going to oil the pallets, the pallet stones. Here you can see the pallet jewel with oil on it. I have put a droplet just on the contacting surface. I'm now going to move the pallet forwards to then distribute that oil onto the escape wheel. Do that a few times until I'm happy with the distribution of escape wheel oil. Now that the movement is oiled, or the base movement, and my escape wheel, I'm going to fit the balance again. When fitting the balance, I position the pallet and the receiving end of the pallet in such a way that the impulse pin will come from this direction and hit the pallet fork. So, also pull it away to make sure the hairspring doesn't touch anything as I place the balance down. And wonderful, it starts ticking straight away. Oops. First impressions is not too bad. I'm certainly going too slow, but amplitude is definitely very good. So I will now adjust the movement to go a little bit faster. Notice that my regulator is a bit loose, so I'm going to take the balance. I'm going to take the balance off the balance cock and tighten these screws because they're not tight enough where they should be. But at least I can see that my beat error. Let's start this again. Okay, I have tightened up the regulator, which is determined by how tight you screw on the capsule. It was a little bit loose, so I've been a little bit chicken, but I've now tightened it, and I'm going to slow down the movement a bit again. Slow down the movement by lengthening the contact point of your regulator pins. I'm going to let that settle because it's not going, there you go, plus 3 seconds, 265 amplitude, 0.0 beat error. Okay, a little bit of variation as the amplitude is gaining. That's 2. See, maybe I would like to go a little bit faster. That's a little bit too fast. Tiny bit slower. It's very sensitive on the regulator here. I think we're somewhere where we want to be now. I think. Okay, well, I'm going to turn the movement around now. See what it does. Something seems to be disturbing the hairspring, so I'll have a closer look under the microscope. Okay, after a little bit of mucking around the hairspring, it's perfectly flat now. It was a little bit, it was a little bit out of position, but it is pretty much where it should be right now. So dial down is going very well. Let's see what it does dial up. Slight different beat error, but all within acceptable terms, I think. So good amplitude, and almost well, about 1 second's difference in variation. Let's try crown down. So movement has been put onto its side. There's now crown down. Okay, it's gaining a little bit, crown down. But, I would say that's good enough for this watch. Put it back on to dial down position. It's going to start settling. Okay, now let's start putting the chronograph mechanism back together. As you might have noticed earlier, this is a mono pusher. So that means you do not have a start, stop, start function. It's only a start, stop, reset. Alright, we have now fitted the tension spring for the column wheel. I put a little bit of blue grease in there. That will help that slide as it should. I think I'll start by fitting the driving wheel for the center seconds counter. That is simply a friction fit onto this overlying pinion that comes out from the fourth wheel. Simply going to press that in like so. I'm now going to fit the intermediate driving wheel. I give that a drop of oil first. Now, as I was going to oil the driving wheel, I noticed there's a little bit of fibre wrapped around the intermediate wheel. So we're going to take this apart.
Remove that. Said and done, this is quite tight. There we go. I don't know if you can see the fibre on the video, but there's a fibre wrapped around the pinion, so I'm trying to remove that.
Okay, let's put this back together. So any sliding, touching surface, I will apply a little drop of blue grease. Now it's a bit of a matter of time, matter of finding the right screws for the right places. Try not to drop things. It's the start, stop, set lever. Here's the reset lever. You're supposed to oil the cams, but I prefer just to put a bit of grease onto the surface area of the reset, or the reset hammer, and that will do the job for me. So I have the hammer tension spring. Okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I must apologize for clipping out some of the things, but I need to concentrate on my work as well and not just making this video. I'll try to get better at that in the future, but for now, this is the best you'll get from me. I guess at this point, we're getting quite close to fitting the chronograph quarter wheels. So one could say this movement is very utilitarian. It's not that it has bad finishing, it just doesn't seem to have any excess. Everything is just tidy. Like, it's not highly polished, but it's finely polished. All the screws, on the other hand, are highly polished. Can't see anything there. Guess we can start the movement up again, as we've got the pinning in place. Now I want to fit the driving wheels. We have to do these at the same time, as they go underneath the same bridge, which is quite common on chronographs. Currently the chronograph is in non-running position. Let's test it by engaging the column wheel. Oh, that's resetting. That works, that's good. Start. Oh, I've done one mistake here. I've put this wheel in the wrong way around. Darn it. Well, there's only one way to correct that. And there we go, back to where we should be, and it's running. And as you can see, it's, the chronograph is engaged. I'm not going to fit the reset spring for the engaging lever before I put it in the case, because otherwise it will just push it out. Cool, let's start putting the dial. Well, I'm gonna do this. I guess maybe I'll, yeah, what's the best way of doing this? Well, I've decided I will fit the dial and hands before casing the movement. Of course I don't have the reset spring, but I'll get it ready to reset. There, it's reset. Now we'll put the hands on. So we have these old school dial screws, pillar screws. I'm going to look under the microscope and make sure they line up the way I want them to. So I have my my pillar screws are lined up, ready for the dial. Put a drop of oil for the hour wheel. Put the hour wheel in place. Now I can drop the hour wheel washer in place. Now we can fit the dial. Like so. the dial secure. So of course the next thing we want to do is to fit the hands. So this minute recorder hand is a little bit loose, so I'm going to tighten it by squeezing it a bit in here. That should be enough. Of course, the key here is hitting the start position. That looks fairly good. Okay, I've stop reset it. I'm quite happy with that. Now we will fit the sub-second hand. Yep, this one's too loose as well, so we'll tighten it. There is a very nice hand setting tightening tool from Bergion, which I'd like to buy, which is on my wish list, but this actually does the same job. Just carefully tighten it. What I like with this is because you have several teeth in there that grip your tube, so it's tightened in 4 different places at the same time. That's feeling a lot better already. I don't want to over tighten it, but I don't want it loose neither. The important thing is to make sure that it's not touching the dial. Neither of the hands have to touch the dial, otherwise it will get scratched. Now for the hour and minute hand. I'll start with the hour hand. Now, I've noticed that the luminous compound is already falling out from the back of this hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix up a little bit of modern luminous compound. We're going to try and color match this a little bit. It's kind of like an orange yellow. So we'll start a bit with the yellow. Good dab of that. And we need a dab of orange. And a bit of the binding compound. Get a bit of this brown powder, just gonna help give it a little bit of age. Mix this together. And all this is going to do is go in from the back, you'll hardly see it from the front, and bind the old compound onto the hands. So, to be clear, we're doing this on the back of the hands. It will act as a glue. So this color will yellow a bit when it dries. So the main purpose of this is to bind the luminous compound, the old luminous compound, to this new compound, and turn it around. You see it's going to match quite nicely when that dries up, and we won't have those holes anymore, but it will also prevent any of the old compound falling into the movement, causing any damage. Okay, my hour hand and minute hand has had the luminous compound stabilized and is now dry. So let's fit them onto the movement. Start by fitting the hour hand, and a convenient thing to do is to make sure it does not touch the second hands or the minute recorder hand. It's looking pretty good. So I got the minute hands very loose on there, so I can move it around. That's a fairly nice hit at 12. See what it does at 6 o'clock. I'd say that's fine at 6 as well. It's a little bit off. It's about a minute off at 6 and spot on 12. So that's, the print will be a little bit off on this dial. There's not much I can do about that. So now I'll need to tighten or push the minute hand on correctly. There we go. Sure there's good clearance between those two. And now for the seconds recorder. And much in the center there. This is just a little bit of the angle of the camera is playing a bit of a trick here, but this is pretty much a little bit to the right. So it's in the middle. So the next stage now is to get the movement into the case. Make sure there's no fibers on the dial, and I have to unscrew or loosen the setting lever so that we can take the crown and stem out. Like so. I've polished and fitted the old crystal again. So what we're going to do now is turn these case screws upwards, secure the movement. Like so. And this is completely secured, not shaking about. Nice way of doing it. And we have one more thing to fit, and that is our start-stop lever spring. Now the moment of truth. Start, stop, reset. Let's see what that looks like up here. Start, stop, oh, start, stop, reset. It's not looking very good, is it? Actually moving for each time, so that's indicating that my second recorder hand is, it might be a little bit loose, or that the tube is not riveted to the hand properly. We'll have a close look at that in a second. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, let's try this again. That looks much better. That's resetting where I want it to reset, so that's great. Now it's time to case it up. Well, it is cased up, but I mean, get the case back on. Any thoughts on the Lemania? Well, I think it's a nice robust movement. They tend to be alright to work on. This is the caliber 15 CHT, which is the modern pusher. I prefer the dual pushers as a, I don't know, it's just a little bit more refined when you can start stop and start stop again without having to reset. But overall, these are very cool, and I wish I had one. Very nice. Okay, we have tightened the tube on the hand, and it's still loose.